Have you ever had a gut feeling about something, but then ended up second guessing yourself and not taking action, only to regret it later? Or maybe you felt fear coming up and you didn't take action on something and you justified it by saying your intuition was saying no. If so, you are not alone. This confusion is so common, and it's one of the main things that erodes our self trust. Welcome back to day 10 of the 100 Days of Realignment. This week, we're talking all about rebuilding self trust. And I have had a lot of insight this week into this very conundrum. How do we discern if it's our intuition or if it's fear? Welcome back, everybody. This is a big one, and I want to talk about it today because it's something that so many of us struggle with because we've been so conditioned in our lives to listen to the fear and to allow the inner voice, which is often our inner critic, to rule us and to determine whether or not we follow the downloads that we receive or the insights that we have, or whether or not we decide that it's our intuition that's telling us it's not time or we shouldn't take action. Let's first talk about the difference between fear and intuition. Because fear is related to our survival response and our nervous system, fear is always going to feel loud and urgent, and there's going to be a constriction in the body. There's an anxiousness and a reactivity to fear because it's our body mobilizing us when there's a perceived danger to get us to quote unquote safety. Now, intuition, on the other hand, is actually very quiet. It's almost like a whisper, and it feels more expansive in the body, lighter in the body, and it really provides more of a momentary clarity versus giving us that urgency to take action. And a lot of us, because of the programming that we have, fear has been the primary driver for us. And so that's the one that we most commonly associate with whenever we're making a decision, whether we're following our fear or whether we're actually following our intuition. So, for me, as an example, uh, this really came up for me this week because this fear versus intuition comes up for me a lot around this YouTube channel. And a part of that is because I am stepping outside of my box and I am trying something new and I'm doing something that I'm not as familiar with. And so sometimes it's really hard for me to determine whether it's fear or intuition. But what I have found as I've become more aware of this happening for me is that oftentimes when it's fear, it makes me feel doubtful and unsure. Versus when it's intuitive, it feels more lighter and aligned, even if whatever intuition I'm getting does make me feel uncomfortable in some way. Because that's how growth is. Whenever we're trying to move beyond our current identity or our current paradigm, there is going to be discomfort in that because it's not the current program we have been running on. And so we're trying to step outside of our ego, which is not bad, but we're trying to step outside the box that we have created for ourselves. And so oftentimes there will be uncomfortableness or some discomfort. But the difference is that the fear response is very reactive and very urgent, and it makes us feel like, are we making the right decision? Is this the thing we should do? What will people think? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? That's fear. versus intuition that feels more like that momentary clarity. It's almost like a drop in. It's like something will just drop into your head. And oftentimes, I think one of the other things that's really hard for us with intuition is that it often sounds like our own voice. And we're like, okay, well, is that intuition or is that just my internal voice? Which actually can be the same thing. Okay. Now, our internal critical negative voice, that's different. But a lot of times something will pop into our head, or we'll get kind of a download, or, especially when we're not really looking for it. It's just kind of a momentary pop in and we're like, oh. Um, and the thing about it is that this is a muscle just like anything else, where the more we honor our intuition and take action, aligned action with our intuition, the stronger it gets because we build that self-trust. So I would love to know from you guys, what is the decision that you have been facing where you have been struggling with fear versus intuition? And I would encourage you to journal this out as well and sit down and really figure out for yourself, where are the areas in your life where you really struggle between fear and intuition. Now, I wanted to give a practical tool here before I sign off for today, because much like the clear yes, clear no exercise I did on Monday to determine what we were going to be focusing on this week as far as our priorities and non negotiables, this is going to be a similar type practice where we have to learn to slow down and create space by pausing in those moments where we're unsure if it's fear or if it's intuition. And we have to really check in with our bodies. Our bodies are the subconscious mind. And so that's where all of the answers really are. And so, because our mind can talk us in and out of things. And when we get into our analytical mind and the ego, that's where all the confusion sets in. And so we really have to drop down into our bodies and we have to see how it feels for us in the body. Because again, fear is going to feel very restrictive and it's going to make you kind of turn in. There's going to be a tightness, kind of it's almost like it makes you feel small. And intuition is going to be more of that clarity where there's an expansiveness. You're going to feel lighter. You're going to feel more aligned, honestly. Uh, Even if there is a part of it that feels uncomfortable. And so, really working with this practice of dropping down into your body, it's easiest is sometimes if we visualize dropping down into our heart and kind of visualizing that heart center opening. If you kind of need that visualization to get down into your body, take a deep breath and then feel what it feels like. Say it out loud, the decision between X or Y, and then feel how it feels in your body. The more you practice this, the easier it gets. And the more that you're going to start trusting yourself because you're going to start taking action on the things that are intuition. And you're going to get that feedback that you're like, yes, this is a yes for me. So I did want to wrap up this video also by checking back in for this week as a midweek check-in for rebuilding self-trust and talking about the priorities and the non-negotiables that we talked about on Monday. Sometimes it is really easy to tell ourselves that we're going to do something and then not end up following through. And that's why it's been so powerful for me, because the intentions that I had set or the priorities I had put out and the non negotiables I had decided on have been things that have been smaller things that have been easy for me to achieve. And honestly, every single day that I show up and I'm able to complete those tasks, the more and more I feel not only aligned with myself, but also just feel more whole and in integrity with myself. And it gives me this momentum. It's like a feeling that I can do anything. I can take on anything. Anything I say I'm going to do, I can show up and follow through on. Now, it's only been a couple days, but sometimes that's all you really need is a couple of days of aligned action and showing up and not self abandoning and doing the things that we say we're going to do to really give you a boost. And that's where I'm feeling today, where even though this week I have not been feeling well, I will be honest, I have come down with a little bit of a bug. And earlier on, a day ago, I just was really tired and I was making all the excuses in my head about why I was not going to show up for my mobility practice specifically, or why I needed caffeine to keep going. But I sat with it, I got quiet, I dropped into my body, and it really felt like, of course, whenever we're trying to assume a new identity or move beyond what's comfortable, there is going to sometimes be contrast that comes in for us. And I was like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to self define. This is an opportunity for me to say, I've decided with clarity, I have certainty that this is on the path to realignment and I am going to show up for myself. And man, making it happen and showing up and doing it even when I felt resistance, that's what really gave me that surge in self trust. That it's like, even when things are uncomfortable at times, I'm not talking about pushing ourselves beyond our capacity or punishing ourselves in any way, but I'm just saying moving through the discomfort of making a new choice, honoring a new path, or showing up for ourselves when we have set, non-negotiables for ourselves in our lives. It's powerful. And it's really helping to motivate me and keep me moving forward on this 100 days of alignment. I'm so glad you guys are all here. I'd love to know if you want to drop in the comment what you are working on this week, or what barriers you've bumped up to against with the fear versus intuition. And I am going to be doing an integration practice on Friday for us to come back and coming back into our own inner compass and learning how to align with that. So you won't want to miss it. I will catch you then. Take care.